The backpack had been hanging in that tree for 4 years, through countless storms, snow, and wind. But when mountain rescue team cut it down, everything inside was in perfect condition. The sandwiches were fresh, the water was cold, and Sarah's phone still had 85% battery. It was as if Sarah and Tommy had just finished packing for their hike this morning. My name is Marcus, and I'm about to tell you a story that will challenge everything you think you know about the mountains, about missing persons, and about the very nature of time itself. It's a story about a mother and son who went for a simple day hike and stepped into a mystery that has baffled search and rescue teams, scientists, and investigators for years. Sarah Chen was 34 years old, a software engineer from Denver who loved the outdoors almost as much as she loved her 12-year-old son Tommy. Every weekend, weather permitting, Sarah and Tommy would explore Colorado's hiking trails together. It was their special bonding time, away from phones and computers and the demands of everyday life. Tommy was an adventurous kid who had inherited his mother's love of nature. He could identify dozens of bird species, knew which plants were safe to touch, and had earned 3 merit badges in outdoor skills from his Boy Scout troop. For Tommy, hiking with his mom wasn't just exercise. It was education, adventure, and quality time all rolled into one. Before I tell you what search teams discovered when they analyzed Sarah's phone, you need to understand something about the Rocky Mountain weather. In 4 years, that area had experienced 67 major storms, including 3 blizzards that buried the trail under 8 feet of snow. No backpack should survive that hanging from a tree branch. But Sarah and Tommy's backpack looked like it had been placed there yesterday. On Saturday, September 14th, 2019, Sarah and Tommy planned what should have been a routine day hike on the Eagle's Nest Trail, a well-marked 6-mile loop in the Rocky Mountain National Park. The trail was rated as moderate difficulty, challenging enough to be interesting for Tommy, but not so difficult that it would be dangerous for a 12-year-old. Sarah was meticulous about preparation. She always checked weather conditions, informed park rangers of their planned route, and packed more supplies than they would actually need. Her backpack contained enough food and water for 2 days, even though they were planning to be back at the parking lot by 4 p.m. The morning was perfect for hiking. Crisp autumn air, clear skies, and visibility that extended for miles across the mountain landscape. Sarah and Tommy signed in at the trail register at 8:47 a.m., noting their planned return time as 4:00 p.m. The ranger on duty, Maria Santos, remembered them because Tommy was excited about spotting a golden eagle he'd read about in his field guide. The boy was so enthusiastic, Maria would later tell investigators. He had this bird identification book and was asking me about the best spots to see raptors along the trail. His mother was patient, encouraging. They seemed like the perfect hiking team. The Eagle's Nest Trail was popular with families because it offered spectacular views without requiring technical climbing skills. The path was well maintained, marked every quarter mile with official trail markers, and monitored by both park rangers and volunteer trail ambassadors. Several other hikers encountered Sarah and Tommy during the first few hours of their hike. Mark and Jennifer Walsh, a couple from Colorado Springs, passed them at the 2-mile marker around 10:15 a.m. Sarah and Tommy were taking a water break, sitting on a fallen log and sharing a granola bar. They looked perfectly normal. Mark Walsh told park investigators 3 days later. The mom was pointing out something in the distance to her son. They seemed to be having a great time. Nothing unusual at all. Lisa Rodriguez, a solo hiker from Boulder, met Sarah and Tommy at the 3.5-mile marker around 11:30 a.m. This was the highest elevation point on the trail, offering panoramic views of the surrounding peaks. The little boy was taking pictures with his mom's phone, Lisa remembered. She was teaching him about composition, how to frame the mountains in the background. They were laughing about something. I remember thinking what a nice relationship they had. That was the last confirmed sighting of Sarah and Tommy Chen. When 4:00 p.m. came and went without Sarah and Tommy returning to the parking lot, the Park Service began standard procedures for overdue hikers. Rangers checked the trail register and confirmed that Sarah and Tommy had not signed out. Their car, a blue Honda CR-V, was still in the parking lot exactly where they had left it that morning. By 6:00 p.m., with daylight fading and no sign of the missing hikers, the Park Service activated a formal search and rescue operation. The initial assumption was that Sarah or Tommy had suffered an injury somewhere along the trail, preventing them from returning on schedule. The first search team consisted of 6 park rangers and 4 volunteer search and rescue specialists. They divided into 2 groups. One would hike the trail forward from the beginning. The other would start from the trail's end point and work backward. The theory was that they would find Sarah and Tommy somewhere along the 6-mile road. But after hiking the entire trail twice, calling Sarah and Tommy's names every few minutes, the search teams found nothing. No sign of them, no evidence they had ever been on the trail, no indication of where they might have gone. It was like they just evaporated, said Search and Rescue Coordinator David Park. We've done hundreds of searches over the years. Usually, if someone's injured or lost, we find some trace. Footprints off the main trail, dropped belongings, some indication of where they went. But with Sarah and Tommy, there was nothing. The search expanded at dawn on Sunday. Additional teams were brought in from surrounding counties, including K-9 units trained to follow human scent trails. Helicopters equipped with thermal imaging cameras surveyed the area from above, looking for any heat signatures that might indicate stranded hikers. The dogs picked up Sarah and Tommy's scent at the parking lot and followed it along the trail to approximately the 4-mile marker. Then, according to the handlers, the scent trail simply ended. Not gradually, as if the hikers had changed direction or been picked up by a vehicle. The scent stopped abruptly, as if Sarah and Tommy had ceased to exist at that exact spot. I've been working with search dogs for 12 years, said handler Janet Pierce. Dogs don't lose scent trails like that. Scent can be disrupted by water, by strong winds, by certain weather conditions, but this was different. My dog acted like the people just weren't there anymore. By Monday, the search operation had grown into one of the largest missing persons efforts in Colorado state history. Over 200 volunteers joined professional search teams, combing not just the Eagle's Nest Trail, but every hiking path, camping area, and wilderness access point within a 50-mile radius. Aircraft from the Colorado National Guard flew grid patterns over the mountains, using advanced imaging equipment that could detect clothing colors and metallic objects from thousands of feet above. The technology was sophisticated enough to spot a lost hiker's water bottle glinting in sunlight or the bright fabric of a jacket against the natural landscape. Sarah's husband David arrived from his business trip in Chicago and immediately joined the search efforts. A successful marketing executive, David was used to solving problems through organization and persistence. He coordinated with park officials to create detailed search grids, ensuring that every square mile of potential hiking terrain was systematically covered. I knew Sarah better than anyone, David told reporters. She's smart, she's prepared, she would never put Tommy in danger. If they were hurt somewhere, we were going to find them. I refused to consider any other possibility. The Chen family hired private search specialists and offered a $50,000 reward for information leading to Sarah and Tommy's safe return. The reward money attracted dozens of tips and potential sightings, but each lead proved to be a false alarm or case of mistaken identity. Local news coverage brought national attention to the case. The story of a mother and son who had simply vanished from a well-traveled hiking trail captured public imagination. Social media campaigns spread their photos across the country, generating thousands of shares and hundreds of additional tips. But despite the massive search effort, the advanced technology, and the intense public interest, no trace of Sarah and Tommy Chen was found. After 2 weeks of searching, the official operation was scaled back to periodic patrols and continued volunteer efforts. The case was classified as a missing persons investigation, but investigators had no leads, no evidence, and no theories that could explain how 2 people could disappear so completely from a 6-mile hiking trail that was searched by over 200 people. David Chen never stopped looking. For the next 4 years, he would return to the Rocky Mountains every few months, hiking the Eagle's Nest Trail and surrounding areas, always hoping to find some clue that the official search teams had missed. He never found anything. Until the day climbers discovered a bright blue backpack hanging 50 feet up in a pine tree, exactly where Sarah and Tommy had last been seen. 4 years after Sarah and Tommy Chen vanished, professional rock climbers Jake Morrison and Elena Vasquez were attempting a new route on Eagles Peak, directly above the trail where the mother and son had disappeared. Jake was an experienced climber with over 15 years of technical mountain experience. Elena was a climbing instructor and wilderness guide who knew the Rocky Mountains better than most park rangers. They were working on establishing a challenging new climb that would eventually be added to the official route guidebooks. As they ascended the steep rock face, Elena noticed something unusual about 50 feet above the hiking trail below them, a splash of bright blue color that didn't belong in the natural mountain environment. "Jake, you need to see this," Elena called out, pointing toward the object. "There's something in that pine tree that shouldn't be there." Jake adjusted his position and looked where Elena was pointing. Hanging from the branches of a large pine tree, approximately 50 feet above the ground, was what appeared to be a hiking backpack. The bright blue fabric was clearly visible against the green pine needles. "That's weird," Jake said. "How does a backpack end up that high in a tree?" Now here's where this gets absolutely terrifying. When investigators examined the contents of the backpack, they found Sarah's daily planner open to the day they disappeared. But someone had been making entries in that planner for the past 4 years. Every single day. The handwriting was definitely Sarah's, but the entries described places and events that don't exist on any map. Elena and Jake decided to investigate. Using their climbing equipment, they carefully rappelled down to the tree where the backpack was hanging. What they found defied all logic and reason. The backpack was in perfect condition, despite hanging in a tree for what appeared to be years, exposed to harsh mountain weather. The fabric showed no signs of deterioration. There was no fading from sun exposure, no tears from wind, no water damage from rain or snow. Jake carefully removed the backpack from the tree branches. The zippers worked smoothly, as if the pack had been stored in a climate-controlled environment rather than hanging outdoors in the mountains. When they opened the backpack, Elena gasped. Inside were items that looked like they had been packed that morning: fresh sandwiches wrapped in plastic, a thermos containing coffee that was still warm to the touch, and bottles of water that were cool and refreshing. "This is impossible," Elena whispered. "Food doesn't stay fresh for years hanging in a tree." Jake pulled out a wallet and found a driver's license for Sarah Chen, along with credit cards and family photos. There was also a small notebook, hiking maps, and what appeared to be a child's homework assignment with Tommy Chen's 7th grade written at the top. But the most disturbing discovery was Sarah's smartphone. The device powered on immediately, showing a battery charge of 85%. The screen displayed dozens of unread text messages and missed calls, all from a contact labeled David, husband. Jake and Elena immediately contacted park rangers, who arrived within an hour to secure the scene and take possession of the backpack. Ranger Maria Santos, the same ranger who had spoken with Sarah and Tommy on the morning they disappeared, was among the first responders. "I recognized the backpack immediately," Maria said. "It was the same bright blue pack Sarah was carrying 4 years ago. But this doesn't make sense. We searched this area dozens of times. There's no way we would have missed a backpack hanging 50 feet up in a tree." The discovery site was photographed extensively, and GPS coordinates were recorded. Crime scene investigators from the Colorado Bureau of Investigation were called in to process the evidence according to missing persons protocol. Detective Lisa Park was assigned to lead the investigation. She had worked missing persons cases for 8 years, but she had never encountered anything like the Chen family disappearance. Standard procedure when we recover belongings from missing persons is to check for DNA evidence, fingerprints, and any clues about what happened to the individuals, Detective Park explained. But this case was different from the moment we opened that backpack. The fresh food was sent to laboratories for analysis. Forensic scientists confirmed that the sandwiches had been prepared recently, within 24 hours of discovery. The bread was soft, the lettuce was crisp, and the meat showed no signs of decomposition. The warm coffee presented an even greater thermal analysis indicated that the liquid had been heated within the past 2 to 3 hours. The thermos itself showed no signs of having retained heat for 4 years, which would have been physically impossible anyway. Sarah's smartphone became the focus of intense investigation. Digital forensics specialists were able to extract data that revealed 4 years of activity. The phone had been continuously tracking GPS coordinates, recording photos, and logging text messages throughout the entire time Sarah and Tommy had been missing. When investigators downloaded the data from Sarah's phone, they discovered something that challenged their understanding of reality itself. The device contained a complete digital record of Sarah and Tommy's activities for the past 4 years. The GPS tracking showed continuous movement through the Rocky Mountains, but the coordinates led to locations that didn't exist on any official map. According to the phone's data, Sarah and Tommy had been hiking through mountain ranges that weren't there, camping at lakes that couldn't be found, and visiting scenic overlooks that no cartographer had ever documented. The photo gallery contained thousands of images taken over 4 years. The pictures showed Sarah and Tommy in various mountain settings, by campfires, at scenic viewpoints, crossing streams, and standing on mountain peaks. In every photo, they appeared healthy, happy, and completely unaware that they were supposed to be missing. But the backgrounds in the photos were impossible to identify. The mountain landscapes didn't match any known geography in Colorado or the surrounding states. The rock formations, vegetation patterns, and vista views didn't correspond to any documented locations in the Rocky Mountain region. Text message logs revealed that Sarah had been sending daily updates to her husband David throughout the 4-year period. The messages were cheerful and detailed, describing their ongoing adventure. Day 847. Found an amazing hidden waterfall today. Tommy caught his first mountain trout. Weather is perfect. Missing you, but having the time of our lives. Day 1203. Reached a new summit today. Views are incredible. Can see for hundreds of miles. Tommy is getting so strong and confident on the trails. Day 1461. 4 years of exploring and we're still finding new places every day. This mountain range seems infinite. Can't wait to show you everything when we get back. But David Chen had never received any of these messages. Phone company records confirmed that the texts had been sent from Sarah's device, but they had never reached any cell tower or communication network. The messages existed in Sarah's phone, but they had never actually been transmitted. As investigators continued analyzing the backpack contents, each piece of evidence created more questions than answers. Sarah's daily planner contained handwritten entries for every single day since their disappearance. The handwriting analysis confirmed that the entries were written by Sarah herself. The planner entries described a detailed 4-year hiking adventure through mountain wilderness that seemed to exist in a parallel dimension. Sarah had documented weather conditions, wildlife sightings, camping locations, and Tommy's progress as a young hiker. But the locations mentioned in the planner didn't exist. References to Crystal Valley, Eagle's Crown Summit, and Rainbow Falls Canyon couldn't be found on any map of Colorado. The distances traveled, as recorded in Sarah's notes, would have required hiking thousands of miles through terrain that simply wasn't there. Most disturbing of all, the final entry in Sarah's planner was dated the day before Jake and Elena discovered the backpack. It read, "Tommy is excited about going home tomorrow. 4 years has been amazing, but we're ready to see David again. Time to leave our mountain paradise and return to the regular world." The investigation had uncovered impossible evidence of 4 years of continuous activity by 2 people who had been missing for 4 years. Sarah and Tommy appeared to have been living, hiking, and documenting their experiences in a version of the Rocky Mountains that existed nowhere on Earth. But the most chilling discovery came when they powered on Sarah's phone. The device showed continuous GPS tracking for 4 years, plotting a route that was geographically impossible. According to the phone's data, Sarah and Tommy had been hiking through mountains that don't exist, visiting camps that aren't on any trail map, and sending text messages from elevations higher than any peak in North America. Detective Park made the difficult decision to contact David Chen. After 4 years of searching, hoping, and grieving, David was about to learn that his wife and son's belongings had been found in impossible circumstances. David arrived at the Colorado Bureau of Investigation offices within 3 hours of receiving the call. He had been living in a state of suspended grief for 4 years, never knowing whether to mourn his family or continue hoping for their return. When Detective Park showed me Sarah's backpack, I knew it was hers immediately, David later recounted. But I also knew something was wrong. That backpack looked exactly like it did the morning she packed it. After 4 years in the mountains, it should have been destroyed. David was shown the contents of the backpack under controlled conditions. He confirmed that the sandwiches were prepared exactly the way Sarah always made them for hiking trips. The thermos was the same one they had received as a wedding gift 12 years earlier. But when investigators showed David the text messages from Sarah's phone, he broke down completely. "I never received any of those messages," David sobbed. "For 4 years, I thought they were dead. But Sarah was trying to contact me every single day. She was telling me about their adventures, about Tommy growing up, about all the things I was missing." The impossible evidence prompted investigators to bring in experts from multiple fields. Dr. Elizabeth Santos, a forensic anthropologist from the University of Colorado, was asked to analyze the physical evidence. "Everything about this case defies scientific explanation," Dr. Santos reported. Food preservation for 4 years without refrigeration is impossible. Electronic devices don't maintain battery charge for that duration. GPS coordinates can't point to locations that don't exist. Dr. Michael Rodriguez, a digital forensics specialist, examined Sarah's phone data in detail. His findings challenged fundamental assumptions about technology and geography. The GPS coordinates in this phone would place Sarah and Tommy in mountain ranges that extend beyond the Earth's surface, Dr. Rodriguez explained. Some of the elevation readings are higher than Mount Everest, but they're supposedly located in Colorado. Meteorologist Dr. Lisa Kim analyzed the weather data recorded in Sarah's planner entries. According to Sarah's notes, the weather in her location had been consistently perfect for 4 years. No storms, no extreme temperatures, no seasonal variations. Weather patterns like this don't exist anywhere on Earth, Dr. Kim concluded. Sarah's weather records describe a climate that would be impossible in the Rocky Mountains or anywhere else. Based on the GPS coordinates from Sarah's phone, search teams attempted to locate the areas where she and Tommy had supposedly been hiking. Using the exact latitude and longitude data, helicopters and ground teams were dispatched to every coordinate point. Every single location led to empty air. The GPS coordinates placed Sarah and Tommy in valleys that didn't exist, on mountain peaks that weren't there, and beside lakes that couldn't be found. We followed the GPS data to its exact coordinates, said Search and Rescue Coordinator David Park. But there was nothing there. We were standing in places where Sarah's phone said she had been camping, but we were on empty mountainsides or in midair above cliffs. Ground-penetrating radar was used to search for hidden caves or underground spaces that might explain the impossible coordinates. Geological surveys confirmed that the mountain structure in those areas was solid rock, with no caverns or hidden passages. The search teams made one final disturbing discovery. At several of the GPS coordinate locations, they found traces of recent human activity, footprints, disturbed vegetation, and traces of campfire ash, but the activity appeared to exist in spaces that contained nothing but empty air. As the investigation continued, a pattern emerged that challenged everything investigators thought they knew about missing persons cases. Sarah and Tommy Chen appeared to have spent 4 years hiking through a version of the Rocky Mountains that existed parallel to, but separate from, the real mountain range. The evidence suggested that they had been living in a dimensional space that overlapped with the physical mountains but operated according to different rules of geography and physics. Dr. Santos assembled a team of quantum physicists to review the case. Their preliminary findings suggested that Sarah and Tommy might have encountered some form of dimensional displacement while hiking. The evidence points to the possibility that consciousness can exist in spaces that don't conform to our understanding of physical reality, Dr. Santos reported. Sarah and Tommy may have been hiking through the same mountains we know, but in a different dimensional layer. The investigation revealed that the Rocky Mountains had a history of similar disappearances, though none as well documented as the Chen case. Over the past 50 years, 17 hikers had vanished completely from well-traveled trails, leaving no trace despite extensive searches. The text messages on Sarah's phone were even more disturbing. For 4 years, she had been sending daily updates to her husband David, saying, "We're safe, still exploring. The views up here are incredible." But David never received a single message. The phone company confirmed the messages were sent, but they disappeared into digital void before reaching any cell tower. Agent Sarah Mitchell led a team of specialists trained to investigate cases that defied conventional explanation. The department operated in secrecy, handling incidents that could potentially destabilize public understanding of reality. The Chen case represents a clear example of dimensional displacement, Agent Mitchell explained to local investigators. We've documented similar incidents across the country, but rarely with this level of physical evidence. The federal team confiscated Sarah's phone, the backpack contents, and all related evidence. Local investigators were required to sign non-disclosure agreements preventing them from discussing the case publicly. David Chen was informed that his wife and son's case was now classified as a matter of national security. He was prohibited from speaking to media or sharing details about the investigation. Agent Mitchell's team revealed that the Rocky Mountains were what they termed a dimensional soft spot, an area where the boundaries between parallel realities were thin. We've identified 17 similar disappearances in this region over the past 50 years, Mitchell reported. Hikers, campers, and climbers who vanish completely only to have their belongings discovered years later in impossible locations. The pattern was consistent across all cases. Missing persons would disappear from well-traveled trails with no witnesses. Years later, their belongings would be found in physically impossible locations, buried in solid rock, frozen in ice formations, or suspended in trees at unreachable heights. In 1987, a family of 3 vanished while camping near Aspen. Their tent was found 5 years later completely intact inside a cave system that had been sealed by avalanche decades earlier. In 1995, 2 experienced climbers disappeared on Mount Elbert. Their climbing equipment was discovered in 2001, embedded in a glacier that had formed before they were born. In 2003, a solo hiker vanished from the Continental Divide Trail. His backpack was found in 2008, buried 15 feet underground in an area that had never been excavated. Dr. Amanda Chen, a quantum physicist working with the federal team, explained their leading theory about what happened to missing hikers. The Rocky Mountain region contains geological anomalies that can create temporary rifts between dimensional layers, Dr. Chen theorized. Under specific conditions, individuals can slip through these rifts into parallel versions of our reality. According to the theory, Sarah and Tommy had encountered such a rift while hiking. They had spent 4 years in a parallel dimension that closely resembled the Rocky Mountains, but operated under different physical laws. In these parallel spaces, time moves differently, geography is fluid, and the normal rules of physics don't apply, Dr. Chen continued. People can survive indefinitely in conditions that would be impossible in our reality. The dimensional displacement explained why search teams never found any trace of missing hikers. The individuals weren't lost in the physical mountains. They were hiking through dimensional copies of those mountains. Based on the GPS coordinates from Sarah's phone, the federal team attempted to locate the dimensional rift that had transported her and Tommy. Using experimental equipment designed to detect dimensional anomalies, they identified a location on the Eagle's Nest Trail where electromagnetic readings were significantly different from surrounding areas. We believe this is the access point Sarah and Tommy used to enter the parallel dimension, Agent Mitchell explained. If our calculations are correct, they might be able to return through the same location. The team set up monitoring equipment at the suspected rift location. For 3 weeks, they maintained constant surveillance, hoping to detect signs of dimensional activity. On the 21st day of monitoring, their equipment registered a massive electromagnetic spike. For exactly 17 minutes, the dimensional barrier became permeable. But Sarah and Tommy did not return. Instead, the monitoring equipment detected new GPS signals from the parallel dimension. The signals indicated that Sarah and Tommy were aware of the return opportunity but had chosen to remain in their mountain paradise. The final message detected from Sarah's phone read, "David, we know you're trying to bring us home. We can feel the portal opening, but Tommy and I have decided to stay. This place is beautiful, peaceful, and we're happy here. Please don't worry about us. We're exactly where we want to be." The dimensional rift closed, and no further signals were detected. The federal government classified the entire Chen investigation as top secret. All evidence was transferred to secure facilities, and everyone involved was required to maintain complete silence about the case. Official records listed Sarah and Tommy Chen as missing persons whose disappearance remained unexplained. No mention was made of the backpack discovery, the dimensional displacement theory, or the federal investigation. David Chen was relocated to a different state and provided with a new identity. He was told that speaking about his family's case would result in federal prosecution. The Eagle's Nest Trail remained open to hikers, but federal agents maintained covert monitoring of the area to detect future dimensional anomalies. What I'm about to tell you next will make you question everything you think you know about missing persons cases. Because Sarah and Tommy weren't the only hikers who vanished in the Rocky Mountains. When investigators started looking deeper, they discovered 23 other missing hikers whose belongings had been found in impossible locations. And every single one of their phones showed the same thing: 4 years of GPS data from places that don't exist. 5 years have passed since the discovery of Sarah and Tommy's backpack. The Eagle's Nest Trail remains one of Colorado's most popular hiking destinations, with thousands of visitors each year. Most hikers are unaware that they're walking through what federal investigators consider a dimensional soft spot. Covert monitoring equipment hidden throughout the area continues to detect occasional electromagnetic anomalies. David Chen lives under a new identity in Oregon. He works as a software consultant and has never remarried. Sometimes on clear mountain days, he claims he can feel Sarah and Tommy's presence. "I know they're out there somewhere," David says quietly. "Not lost, not in danger, but exploring mountains that exist in a place I can't reach. I've made peace with that." Agent Mitchell's team documented 23 additional cases of dimensional displacement in the Rocky Mountains. Each case follows the same pattern: complete disappearance followed by impossible evidence discovery years later. The federal government maintains strict secrecy about dimensional phenomena. Public knowledge of parallel realities could fundamentally alter society's understanding of life, death, and the nature of existence itself. Dr. Amanda Chen continues her research in a classified facility. Her work focuses on understanding the conditions that create dimensional rifts and predicting when they might occur. We've learned that certain individuals are more susceptible to dimensional displacement, Dr. Chen reports in classified documents. People with strong emotional bonds, particularly families, seem to transition together into parallel realities. The research suggests that love and family connections can anchor consciousness across dimensional boundaries. Sarah and Tommy's choice to remain in their mountain paradise reflects the power of these emotional bonds. Hiking organizations have never been informed about dimensional risks. The government determined that public warnings would create panic without providing effective protection. Instead, missing persons cases in dimensional soft spots are quietly classified and investigated by specialized federal teams. The official record lists Sarah and Tommy Chen as missing persons whose fate remains unknown. Their case file sits in a standard police database alongside thousands of other unsolved disappearances. But in a secure federal facility, their story represents proof that reality extends far beyond what most people understand. Their backpack, still containing impossible evidence, is stored alongside artifacts from dozens of similar cases. Sometimes hikers on the Eagle's Nest Trail report strange experiences. Compasses spinning wildly, GPS devices showing impossible coordinates, or glimpses of trails that don't appear on any map. These reports are quietly collected by federal monitors and added to growing files about dimensional activity in the Rocky Mountains. Sarah and Tommy Chen chose paradise over reality. They found a place where families can hike together forever, where weather is always perfect, and where the mountains extend infinitely in all directions. Their story challenges our understanding of missing persons cases and suggests that some disappearances aren't tragedies, they're escapes into better realities. The mountains keep their secrets, but sometimes, for those who know how to look, the truth reveals itself in a backpack hanging from a tree, containing evidence of impossible adventures in parallel worlds. In those moments, we glimpse the truth. Reality is far stranger and more wonderful than we ever imagined.